All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third and final installment of Auth. By the end of this lesson, I hope that you will be able to verify tokens in Rails, and then I hope you will be able to protect resources with those tokens. So we're going to build on the stuff we did in part one, and we're going to build in the stuff that we did in part two. And hopefully all those things are just right under our fingers. So first thing we need to check is see whether or not that's the case. So I'm gonna, all right, you can see both of those steps lists. Why don't we start with like 10 minutes or so and see if you can do all of these steps on your own from part one and part two. Go. All right, pencils down. What I want to see right now is a fist to 5 of just the first part, creating users. Give me a fist to 5 on whether or not you were able to successfully create a user with a hashed password. Cool, very nice. Thanks, JR. Awesome. Second part, who was able to get a token back from logging in? Fist to 5. Fist is, wait, we're supposed to do that too, or 5 is, I got the token. Not bloody bad, gang. So we're going to go through these first 2 together. So if there's anything you were missing in either of those steps, feel free to stop me and we can explain stuff or follow along if you'd like. And thank you, Tiffany. So let's see, I had an auth folder going, I think. Okay, so I'm going to Rails new API backend. Nice, there's step 1. I'm going to go to my gem file and install bcrypt. Bcrypt is installed. I go into my router. Any post requests to users should go to the users controllers create method. Done. I generate a controller for users, plural. While I'm in here, I'll go ahead and make the model, which is user singular. Go into that controller, make a create method. Take in a username and a password. And then fire it on back. You can also get this as status. That would make sense. So we get a 201 instead of a 200 back. Yeah. Cool. So that's done. If I head over to the model, has secure password. It's our bcrypt macro. And if I go over to the migration, t.string username, t.string password digest. Cool. I run the migration. I serves it up. Take a water break while I wait for Postman to load. I make a post request to users with a username and a password, and it comes back hashed. Step 1 complete. What questions do you have about anything in step 1? Cool. Let's take a look at step 2. So I'm going to create a login route. This is going to be a post request to login. I'm going to send that to an authentication controller's login action. So now I need to create that controller in action. So the controller was called authentication. Action is going to be called login. Magical. All right, I got a login action. Done. Next, I need to look up the user that I was given. So I could say user.findby. Username. Thank you. Look up the user. If that user does not exist, what does that mean if the user doesn't exist?
They have like the wrong username or password.
Specifically the wrong username. We haven't done anything with password yet, but I tried to look somebody up by the username and nothing came back. That means that wrong username. So maybe we render JSON with an error. We give it a status of unauthorized. Cool. Next, authenticate them. So there is a matching user. Now I got to make sure they gave me the right password. So I do the exact same thing. If not user.authenticate. Authenticate is a magical method that we also got from has secure password. Well, I take that back. We got it from the bcrypt gem. And I guess has secure password came in through that. And if I pass in the password that they gave me, it does all of the work of hashing that password, comparing it to the hashed password that I have, and that's just going to return back true or false. So if it returned false, similar thing. Otherwise, that means it all worked out okay.
So this is in the if statement, not this if statement is in the if statement, not the else statement.
Correct. So let's go through all of the logic for this.
Okay.
Actually, I'm working myself in circles now. I might have written this wrong. Okay, so if there's no user, that's what I did wrong. If there's no user, womp womp, go away. Else, meaning if there is a user, well, what if their password's wrong? Womp womp, go away. Failing that, that means that the user exists and they gave us the right password. So that goes in here. So without doing the token part yet, we should be able to do something with that. Let's see if we can. All right, so I was able to send this over to create the user. If I make that same post request to log in, hooray! What if I get the username wrong? Womp womp. What if I get the password wrong? Womp womp. If I get them both right, I make it through that if-else series. Cool. Questions about anything I've done so far?
Hey Kyle, can I see your routes.rb again, please?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Other questions? Cool. Now we want to make a token, sign it, send it. So to make a token, I need to install Jot. I can bundle add. Wait, is it Jot or? It's Jot in Ruby. It's JSON Web Token in Node. Yeah. All right. So I've got Jot. So what I actually want to do is make a payload, make a token with the payload, and then send that token back. Toke! Eh. Oops. Come on, man. So the payload is going to be something we can identify the user with later. User ID is fine. We can put anything we want on here. We just put random data that we're storing on the client, sending back with every request. At a minimum, probably need this. It's also common to have like expiration dates on them. That kind of stuff. All right, so to make a token out of that payload, we jot.encode the payload. Oh no, we need to encode it. We need to sign it with something. So we need a secret, which we can get out of rails.application.secrets. Secret key base, something like that. I think that's right. Might actually just be rails.application.secret key base. We figured out a shorter way to do it recently. All right, we'll find it real fast if this works. Cool. So that should give me a token. And then I should send it back. See if it works. Cool. I got a token back. And as you hopefully learned yesterday, these are encoded, not encrypted. It's Pig Latin. It's just base 64. So I can go right over to the jwt.io page, paste in this token, and that's what's inside of it. Ah. God, where's it? I don't know where it keeps going. There we go. Cool, and that's all of part 2. Questions so far?
We didn't use that secret key base yesterday in the explanation. We just kind of did a string. Is that a built-in key base generator?
Yeah. Correct. But yeah, it's also just a string. Cool. Help me wrap my head around this. So I send this token back down to the client. It says that they're user 1. All right, but if this is just pig Latin, then I can also go, oh, never mind, I'm user 2. On the back end, how do I know when I get this token back that they didn't do that?
Doesn't it change if you're changing like the payload?
Yeah, the middle part of this changes. There's 3 parts to the token: header, payload, signature. Header, payload, signature. And so yeah, that's just the pig Latin thing. Watch. It ends in like YFQ right now. If I change it to 3. ZFQ. But I'm not keeping track of what the tokens were. How do I know they didn't tamper with it?
So I'm not sure I'm understanding the question fully, but I think maybe what you're looking for is the quote unquote bouncer is going to check that specific ID, and he knows that that specific token is associated with the specific ID.
Nope. Good guess. Great guess. Part of the point of using tokens is that we don't know who sent these. We don't have to look anything up. The token's your hand stamp to get in. Except we're working with computers. I could just rub my hand stamp onto your hand. How do I know that you didn't change the token? If it's running on the user's computer, and it is, once we return this back, this is going to somebody's JavaScript app. Cool. They made an evil app. They logged in, tampered with the token, and now they're sending that back to you. Yee. How do I know they did or didn't fuck with it?
So the token's saved on the client side only. So there's no way to like, is there any way to compare what the token was before?
We're not keeping track of the tokens we issue.
You should be able to use your algorithm to convert the token to the username and password.
Kind of. Like all it is a little transport mechanism for this. I'm really just sending this over. And I can use that to look up the user and stuff.
If you change the user ID, will it also change the secret?
Oh,
like,
you're so
or
close.
like
You're
it
there.
won't.
It would change, not the secret, it would change what?
Signature.
The signature.
Yeah, the blue
The
part.
The signature is a hash. We're generating a hash that starts out as a secret, and then we like mix it up with the payload. That's the signature. If you change the payload and mix that up with the secret, you get a completely different hash. So all I actually care about out of this token is the payload, but I'm also going to check the signature when they send it back. And if the signature doesn't add up to what the payload is, I know they fucked with it. If we take like I mentioned, I think on the first day, hashes is like from breakfast, it's hash browns. Your secret is a magical golden potato that your client doesn't know about. They see the results of it, but they can't make it themselves. They can make other things that mix in with it. They can put bacon in there, they can put fruit, they can do all kinds of stuff. Unless they got my magical golden potato, I know right away that it didn't come from me. And that's what the last part of this token is. It's these two things hashed with the secret key makes that signature. Cool. So that's the first two steps. Let's get busy. So first step of part 3, verifying a token that I'm being sent. So for this one, I'm going to make a new route. First, I'm going to make a commit. All right, so I need to make a new route. This one is a GET request to let's see, we'll call it Treehouse. Gotta know the password to get in. And it's gonna go to the tree houses. Yeah. We're gonna go to the treehouse index action. So first thing, let's make sure that it works without the without checking the token. So if I make a controller for treehouses, reminds me, treehouses. So Rails G controller treehouses. Can't know the top secret location of the tree houses. Paige, do you know what a treehouse is? Do they have those in merry old England?
Yes.
Okay. I had to ask.
Maybe not as common because the gardens are smaller.
the gardens. I like
Sorry, the yard.
They don't have summer camps in England. Travesty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we survive.
Somehow.
This is why we're not fully formed human beings. No
All right.
emotional range.
All right, so this should work, right? by Rails S.
You have a trailing comma in your hash object.
Oh, that's okay. You're allowed to. I prefer them even. Not allowed in JSON. They're allowed in hashes and they're allowed in JavaScript objects. All right, I get some tree houses back. Bully. So now I need to make it so that if you're not logged in, you don't see the tree houses. So first thing is, did they even try to send us a token? So we go that the authorization header comes in from request.headers authorization. Request is like a magic, it's just there. It's kind of like params. It represents the HTTP request that started all this. And it has a headers method. Well, it's a headers. Yeah, I guess that is a method. And we can look up, it returns a hash and we can look up the authorization header because that's how we send these things over. Now, don't ask me why, don't ask me how. They didn't check with me first. Authorization headers with tokens start with the word bearer, as in I come bearing a token, and then a space, and then the token. So to get the actual token out, what I really want to do is authorization header dot split. So I want to split on this space. I'll end up with an array with the word bearer and my token. And then I want the first index of that. And that's my token. Cool. I can actually check right here. If they didn't send me a token at all, we're done. So I can say if no authorization header, render JSON error. Which has a status of unauthorized. Everything else, we're still in the game. Okay, so we're still verifying the token. Now we need to get the stuff out of the token. So we're going to do that by getting the secret. And then we're going to try, let's see, so it's rails.application.secret keybase. And then we're going to get the payload, which is jwt.decode this token with this secret. And again, I didn't come up with this. They didn't ask my permission to do this. Jot decode always returns an array. And so we want the first thing out of the array. But that gives us the payload. The payload had the user ID. Well, shit, I could get the username. Do something like user.find payload user ID. That's kind of cool. Could even send that back in my response. Cool. Now, the way this works is, let's say they did tamper with the token. That's kind of what I'm checking here. They did tamper with the token. It's going to throw an error. We haven't done a ton of this kind of stuff in this program, like intentionally, but here's how you handle that. Begin, it's your keyword, Rescue, that's another keyword. And then end. So this is anything that could throw an error, we put inside this begin block. And in the rescue part, we say, we handle the actual error. So we might say like, nice try, asshole. Send back a forbidden status. Otherwise, failing that, we try to do the rest of it. See if it works. So I serve up this app. And I'm going to go back to my login. All right, so I log into this app, I get this token. Here's how you use the token in Postman. The easiest way, at least. Go over to the authorization tab. Say that you have a bearer token. It's the only one that says token on the whole list. And then paste it in there. Awesome. So that's going to go out on my request. I'm making a GET request to localhost 3000 / treehouses. And there they are. Hey, look, it's got my username. What happens if I fuck up the token? I just put an X at the end. Oop. Undefined method username. Shouldn't have even gotten that far. Ah, shit, it just kept going. In that case, we're gonna put all the rest of that inside of the try catch also. There we go. All right, if I fuck up the token by putting an X at the end, nice try, asshole. Fix the token. I'm back in, baby. And that's step 3. Before you start asking questions, just take a second and soak this in. Make sure you really understand what each of those steps are. All right, now I want you to ask me some questions. Other than checking for the authorization header here, all the rest of this is the same thing we did in the login step, just backwards. We get a user, payload, secret, make a token out of it. The other one is take a token and a secret, get a payload out of it, and then the user.
Are these the steps that we'll go through every single time when using Auth?
There's one more spin I'm going to put on this that helps you reuse some of these steps. You don't have to type this out for every single protected resource, but the logic is the same every time.
Can I see your authentication controller?
Yep.
Thank you.
Neat.
So the token is being sent in the authorization header, and then you're pulling it. Like, I don't know what's happening.
No, you said it right. Like,
And then you're
we
just
are
taking
sending-
the first part.
Yep. So if we can even see it, if we go over to the headers for this, that's what the actual header looks like. It just has the word bearer in front of it. And all of that, so you can see the dots, that's start jot. So then we grab that header. They didn't send it, then they're not even trying. We pull the token part out of it so we don't also have the word bearer to deal with. Grab our secret, and then use decode to pull out the payload part of it.
Is the secret that is generated there, is it always the same for your app? Like, how does it know that that secret is the same one that you put in your application or authentication controller?
It's different every time you generate a Rails app.
But it's
In
still-
real life, you should probably make a separate token that's like easier to reset, and then use a gem called .env so that it doesn't end up going in your Git repo. By the way, good a time as any to tell you, never, ever, ever put a secret in a GitHub repo or Git, period. It should not be in your version control. There are ways that you can have code that you're using that isn't in your version control, but if this is my top secret key and I publish it on GitHub, guess what? Everybody who can see my repo can now do anything they want with that key. Uh-oh. So if that was like your brand new AWS key that you got, that's how you end up getting an $80,000 bill in one day because somebody sniped your key off of GitHub. Now, like, AWS is pretty cool about that because, believe it or not, if you do that, you won't be the first student who ever made that mistake. And GitHub is also pretty proactive about like, we just went ahead and did you a favor and deleted that. You should change that everywhere, by the way.
So front end wise, since it's a header, if we're doing, does it come back in the fetch then? Just like one of our other options?
Yep. Right next to body, you can put headers and put authorization and then your stored token. More questions?
The like comparison of the hash, is that part of that decode?
Yep. All happens automatically for you.
Okay.
Would you have to do this for each method? So like your show method, and like you have to put the same stuff in each of them?
Oh, what a good question. That would be real awkward, wouldn't it? If I have 5 methods on this controller and like 80% of it is the same boilerplate, that seems like something we should probably put in a method. So we might do something like def let's see, I'm going to call this authenticate. So if I just take all of this and throw it in there, what parts of it are not specific to the resource that I want? Really, like all of that. Okay. So I should be able to do something like cool. Let's see if it works. All right, can I still get my thing? Beep. What if I had local variable or method? Oh, I didn't bring the tree houses with it. That's a problem. Ooh, where'd they go? All right, let's try that again. Find method username for nil. Man, I should have brought that over. All right, I'm going to skip a step. I thought I could do this on the same controller. Whatever. There's a really cool thing in, it's another like built-in magical Rails thing. It's a macro called before action. And so we do before action, and then we can say an action that we want to happen before we run another one. So we could say, I want to run authenticate. And just like in our router and whatever else, we can specify where it runs. We can say index. And now I don't need to specify that it's like running before that. That should fix that. There we go. And it all works. So now I have all this logic in one place. And don't know if you noticed this, we grab the user there, and then we can just use that user wherever we want. That's pretty fucking cool. And maybe the best part yet, this works just fine for the treehouses controller. Probably gonna have more than one thing, controller in my app, that needs to do some of this authentication stuff. What does this line mean? Like, put that in human words. What's line 1 mean?
From application controller.
What about application controller?
Treehouse up. The treehouse inherits from application controller.
Inherits. What does that mean?
Any application controller methods that it has also pass down to treehouse.
Weird. I feel like I've seen that a couple other places too. Did my authentication controller also inherits from that? My users controller also inherits from application controller. Huh. So if you get all the things that the thing you're inheriting from has, application controller, you say, okay, could I put that in here, and now everybody can use it? I wonder. Apparently so. That is authentication. Ask me some questions.
So imagine there's like a lot of things you can do with the authentication, like timers, or like when they do like you have three attempts and then it locks you out.
Mhm.
What's going on there? That you're just telling it you can't, it won't accept it anymore. It won't accept your
Sure.
attempt.
So like maybe you do something like you go to the authentication control because that's where that would happen. All right, so I have the user. Maybe instead of just doing that, I do something like @user.update failed attempts is @user.failed attempts +1. And then maybe like I say something like if @user.failed attempts is greater than 3, user.update is locked true. And maybe like this is if there's not a user or @user.is locked, something like that. What else?
I know we're over time, but is it on the front end? Like, I guess how does it look on the front end?
The front end's a nothing burger, man. So like fetch body is JSON.stringify whatever their username is, whatever password they filled out. Oh, this isn't in Ruby. The all right, so I send that over, and then assuming it worked, then I can take the token out. Okay, none of that is weird. We know how to do all that already. So to store it, we do local storage set, give it a label like token. Done. So local storage is a lowercase l. Or set item. Local storage is like a variable, except it survives refreshes and that kind of stuff. All right, so now I want to get my hands on one of them tree houses. Oops, and this is a method. Done. Logging out, delete the token. Other questions about auth?
When you like log into something and then it'll keep you logged in for like a certain period of time, is there just that local storage has some expiry date as to like time frame of how long it stays there? Or
It does. You can't control it though. Like not
Okay.
directly. Your browser manages it automatically. It generally keeps them for a really fucking long time. What will happen is like you can expire a token on the back end. So let's say over here, in addition, I set something like IAT. IAT since we're issued at time, and I do something like, I know there's some like built-in class where it's like time.now or something like that. So that gives you a timestamp. The other thing you could do is in your little authenticate thing. All right, so I get this payload, and now I can say if issued at token issued at time is more than 3 days ago or whatever, then something like that. And now you got to log in again to get another one. You can also do things where every time you use a token, it'll update the issued at time and then re-sign the token. So it's just like a period of inactivity. Yeah, you can control all that. And it's just if statements and stuff. There's no real magic to it.
Is Node Auth very different?
So glad you asked. Here's the auth system for the Firebase site. Okay, so this is for logging in. you do this get password hash. Where does that come from? This from data. Cool. So this is like really, it's like get user. So you are looking up a user. You take the user that you get back. You compare the password they gave you to the one that was stored in the database. If it's not a match, it's an error. Otherwise, you sign a payload with a secret key and then send it back. So in other words, nope. Or protecting something. If there was no authorization header, it's unauthorized. Otherwise, you pull the token out of the header. You do jot.verify with the token and the secret key. If there was an error, means the token was tampered with. Otherwise, you look up the user and add it to the request and move on with your life. Otherwise, you throw an error. Steps are the same. Other questions? Cool. A super good use of your time for the rest of the day would be to build and burn this. Let's say the next 45 minutes, you should be able to get 2, maybe 3 of these knocked out before our survey goes out. See if you can just build up something from scratch, get user creation, get login happening, protect some resource. Rinse and repeat. If you get lost, there's like 17 videos, and all the auth part 1, 2, and 3s are exactly the same. So cool. Have fun.